What would actually happen if you stopped eating sugar for just 30 days? Not reduced it, not cut back a little, but completely removed added sugars from your daily routine. Because here's the truth most people aren't told. You don't just lose a little weight, your entire metabolism begins to reset. And if you've ever said, I eat healthy, but I'm still tired. I can't lose belly fat no matter what I try. Or I feel addicted to food. Then sugar may be the hidden driver behind all of it. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Every time you consume sugar, whether it's in soda, biscuits, packaged snacks, or even healthy juices, your body releases a hormone called insulin. Insulin's job is simple, store energy. But when insulin is constantly elevated, your body shifts into storage mode, not fat-burning mode. That means fat loss slows down, energy crashes increase, cravings get stronger, and inflammation quietly builds in the background. Now here's where it gets more serious. Excess sugar doesn't just circulate in your blood. A large portion of it gets processed in your liver, where it's converted into fat. This is one of the root causes behind fatty liver, hormonal imbalances, stubborn belly fat, and even accelerated aging. So when you remove sugar for 30 days, you're not just dieting, you're giving your body a chance to lower insulin, repair metabolic pathways, reset hunger signals, and activate natural fat-burning systems again. And the changes can happen faster than most people expect. Within days, not months. In this video, we're going to break this down step by step. You'll understand what happens in the first 72 hours, how your brain and cravings begin to change, why your energy stabilizes, what happens to your liver and hormones, and how your body shifts into fat-burning mode. And most importantly, I'll show you exactly how to do this in a practical, sustainable way without extreme dieting and without feeling miserable. Because this isn't about restriction. It's about restoring how your body was designed to function. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day to help you take control of your health using real science. Here's what's really going on inside your body when you stop eating sugar. Your insulin levels begin to drop. And this one change alone can completely transform how your body uses energy. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of insulin as a storage switch. When insulin is high, your body is in storage mode. You store fat, you store glucose, you conserve energy. When insulin is low, your body flips into burn mode. You burn stored fat. You access energy more efficiently. You stabilize blood sugar. Now here's the problem. When you consume sugar frequently, especially refined sugar, insulin stays elevated almost all day. That means your body rarely gets the signal to burn fat. It's like trying to withdraw money from a bank account while the account is locked. So even if you're eating less or exercising more, fat loss becomes extremely difficult. What the research shows is that chronically elevated insulin is one of the main drivers behind insulin resistance, a condition where your cells stop responding properly to insulin. And when that happens, your body produces even more insulin, fat storage increases, hunger signals become dysregulated, and energy levels drop. Now here's the shift that happens when you remove sugar for 30 days. Within the first few days, insulin levels begin to decline. This allows your body to finally access stored fat, especially around the abdomen and liver. By the second and third week, many people enter a state of metabolic flexibility, where the body can switch between burning glucose and fat efficiently. And this is where things start to feel different. You're not constantly hungry. You don't crash after meals. You feel steady, focused, and in control. But here's the key. This doesn't happen automatically unless you support the process correctly. So let's make this practical. If you're removing sugar, here's how to accelerate this insulin reset. First, prioritize protein and healthy fats. Think eggs, chicken or fish, olive oil, nuts and seeds. These foods don't spike insulin the way sugar does, and they keep you full longer. Second, reduce refined carbohydrates alongside sugar, because white bread, pastries, and processed foods break down into glucose quickly, triggering the same insulin response. Third, consider meal timing. Even a simple 12-14 hour overnight fast can significantly improve insulin sensitivity. For example, finish dinner at 8 p.m. and eat your first meal at 10 a.m. This gives your body time to lower insulin and tap into stored energy. Fourth, move your body daily. Even light walking after meals can reduce blood sugar spikes and improve insulin response. Here's the takeaway. When you quit sugar, you're not just cutting calories. You're correcting a hormonal signal. You're telling your body it's safe to burn fat again. If this is making sense so far, consider subscribing, because in the next section, we're going to explore something even more powerful: How quitting sugar actually rewires your brain and eliminates cravings. Here's what's really going on inside your body when you stop eating sugar. Your insulin levels begin to drop. And this one change alone can completely transform how your body uses energy. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of insulin as a storage switch. When insulin is high, your body is in storage mode. You store fat, you store glucose, you conserve energy. When insulin is low, your body flips into burn mode. You burn stored fat. You access energy more efficiently. You stabilize blood sugar. Now here's the problem. When you consume sugar frequently, especially refined sugar, insulin stays elevated almost all day. That means your body rarely gets the signal to burn fat. It's like trying to withdraw money from a bank account while the account is locked. So even if you're eating less or exercising more, fat loss becomes extremely difficult. What the research shows is that chronically elevated insulin is one of the main drivers behind insulin resistance, a condition where your cells stop responding properly to insulin. And when that happens, your body produces even more insulin, fat storage increases, hunger signals become dysregulated, and energy levels drop. Now here's the shift that happens when you remove sugar for 30 days. Within the first few days, insulin levels begin to decline. This allows your body to finally access stored fat, especially around the abdomen and liver. By the second and third week, many people enter a state of metabolic flexibility, where the body can switch between burning glucose and fat efficiently. And this is where things start to feel different. You're not constantly hungry. You don't crash after meals. You feel steady, focused, and in control. But here's the key. This doesn't happen automatically unless you support the process correctly. So let's make this practical. If you're removing sugar, here's how to accelerate this insulin reset. First, prioritize protein and healthy fats. Think eggs, chicken or fish, olive oil, nuts and seeds. These foods don't spike insulin the way sugar does, and they keep you full longer. Second, reduce refined carbohydrates alongside sugar, because white bread, pastries, and processed foods break down into glucose quickly, triggering the same insulin response. Third, consider meal timing. Even a simple 12-14 hour overnight fast can significantly improve insulin sensitivity. For example, finish dinner at 8 p.m. and eat your first meal at 10 a.m. This gives your body time to lower insulin and tap into stored energy. Fourth, move your body daily. Even light walking after meals can reduce blood sugar spikes and improve insulin response. Here's the takeaway. When you quit sugar, you're not just cutting calories. You're correcting a hormonal signal. You're telling your body it's safe to burn fat again. If this is making sense so far, consider subscribing, because in the next section we're going to explore something even more powerful. How quitting sugar actually rewires your brain and eliminates cravings. Now let's move beyond metabolism and into your brain. Because one of the most surprising things that happens when you quit sugar for 30 days is that your cravings begin to disappear. Not through willpower, but through biology. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Sugar directly stimulates your brain's reward system, specifically a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Dopamine is often called the feel-good chemical, but more accurately, it's the motivation and reward signal that drives behavior. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of dopamine like a notification system in your brain. Every time something beneficial happens, like eating, achieving a goal, or social connection, dopamine gives you a reward signal that says, do that again. Now here's where sugar changes the system. When you consume sugar, especially in high amounts, it creates an artificially large dopamine spike, much higher than what you'd get from natural whole foods. Over time, this does two things. First, your brain starts to depend on sugar for reward. Second, your baseline dopamine sensitivity decreases, which means normal foods start to feel boring, and you begin to crave stronger, sweeter, more stimulating foods just to feel satisfied. This is the same pattern seen in many addictive behaviors. Now here's the critical insight. When you remove sugar for 30 days, your brain begins to reset its dopamine sensitivity. But the process happens in phases. In the first 3-5 days, you may experience strong cravings, irritability, low mood, headaches, or fatigue. This is often called a withdrawal-like phase, not because sugar is a drug in the traditional sense, but because your brain is adjusting to lower stimulation. Then something interesting happens. Around day 7-10, cravings begin to weaken. Taste sensitivity improves. Natural foods start tasting better. By week 3-4, you feel more in control around food. Emotional eating decreases. Your brain no longer demands constant sugar hits, and this is where real freedom begins. Because you're no longer fighting cravings all day. Now, let's make this practical. If you're going to go through this 30-day reset, Here's how to support your brain. First, don't replace sugar with artificial sweeteners, because they can keep the dopamine loop active and maintain cravings. Instead, allow your taste receptors to fully reset. Second, increase whole, nutrient-dense foods. Especially, protein supports neurotransmitters, magnesium-rich foods like leafy greens, nuts, omega-3 fats like fish, seeds. These support brain chemistry naturally. Third, stay hydrated and maintain electrolytes. Low energy during the first week is often due to fluid and electrolyte shifts, not just sugar withdrawal. Fourth, improve sleep, because poor sleep increases cravings by altering hunger hormones like ghrelin and leptin. Even one night of bad sleep can increase sugar cravings the next day. Here's the takeaway. Sugar isn't just a calorie issue. It's a neurochemical loop. And when you break that loop, you don't just eat better. You think differently about food. If you've ever felt like you lack discipline when it comes to sugar, it may not be discipline at all. It may be biology. And the good news is, biology can be reset. In the next section, we're going to go deeper into something most people completely overlook. What happens inside your liver when you quit sugar, and why this directly impacts fat loss, hormones, and long-term health. Now let's go deeper into one of the most overlooked organs in fat loss and metabolic health, your liver. Because when you quit sugar for 30 days, one of the most powerful changes happens here, quietly but significantly. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When you consume sugar, especially fructose, which is found in table sugar and high fructose syrups, it is primarily processed in the liver. And unlike glucose, which can be used by many cells in the body, fructose is handled almost entirely by the liver. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of your liver like a processing factory. Every time sugar enters your system, the liver has to decide, do I store this, use it, or convert it? But when sugar intake is high and frequent, the system gets overloaded. So instead of efficiently using the energy, the liver starts converting excess sugar into fat. This process is called de novo lipogenesis, which simply means creating new fat. Now here's where it becomes a problem. That fat doesn't just stay in circulation. It begins to accumulate inside the liver itself. This is how fatty liver develops, even in people who don't drink alcohol. And what the research shows is that non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is now one of the most common metabolic conditions worldwide. But here's the good news. When you remove sugar, especially for a sustained period like 30 days, the liver begins to reverse this process. Within days, the burden on the liver decreases. Within weeks, liver fat starts to reduce, insulin sensitivity improves, fat metabolism becomes more efficient, and this directly impacts belly fat reduction, hormonal balance, blood sugar control, energy production, because your liver isn't just a detox organ, it's a metabolic control center. It regulates blood glucose, fat processing, hormones, toxin clearance. So when the liver improves, everything improves. Now let's make this actionable. If you're quitting sugar, here's how to actively support your liver. First, increase cruciferous vegetables. Think broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage. These contain compounds that support liver detox pathways. Second, add bitter foods like lemon water, arugula, green tea. Bitters stimulate bile flow, which helps process fats more efficiently. Third, prioritize hydration. Water supports the removal of metabolic waste and improves overall liver function. Fourth, consider simple fasting windows. As mentioned earlier, even a 12-14 hour fasting period allows the liver to shift from storage mode into repair mode. Fifth, reduce not just sugar, but liquid sugar specifically, because sugary drinks hit the liver faster and harder than solid food. Here's the key takeaway. When you quit sugar, you're not just reducing calories. You're removing the primary burden from one of your most important metabolic organs. You're giving your liver the space to burn stored fat, regulate hormones, and restore internal balance. If this is helping you understand your body on a deeper level, consider subscribing. I share daily content like this to help you fix the root cause, not just the symptoms. In the next section, we're going to explore something you'll feel very quickly. What happens to your energy levels? And why most people stop experiencing crashes within days of removing sugar. Now let's talk about something you feel almost immediately when you quit sugar, your energy. Because for many people, the most noticeable change within the first week is that the constant cycle of energy spikes and crashes begins to disappear. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Every time you consume sugar, your blood glucose rises rapidly. This triggers a surge in insulin, as we discussed earlier, to move that glucose out of the bloodstream and into cells. But when that spike is too high, your body often overcorrects. meaning insulin pushes blood sugar down quickly, sometimes too quickly. This leads to what's called a reactive drop in blood sugar. And that's when you feel sudden fatigue, brain fog, irritability, the urge to eat again, especially more sugar. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your energy like a roller coaster. Sugar takes you sharply up, but what goes up fast comes down just as fast. Now compare that to what happens when you remove sugar. Your blood glucose rises more gradually from whole foods. Insulin responds in a controlled way, and instead of a roller coaster, you get a steady, stable line of energy throughout the day. What the research shows is that stable blood sugar is directly linked to better cognitive performance, improved mood stability, reduced fatigue, and even better sleep quality. And this is why many people report, I don't need caffeine as much anymore. I can focus longer without crashing. I feel calm, not wired. Now here's an important point. In the first few days of quitting sugar, you might actually feel low energy. And that's normal, because your body is transitioning from relying on quick sugar to using stored energy and fat more efficiently. This is often called the adaptation phase. But once your metabolism adjusts, energy becomes more consistent and more reliable. Now let's make this practical. If you want stable energy during your 30-day sugar reset, here's what to do. First, build balanced meals. Each meal should include protein for sustained energy, healthy fats for satiety, fiber to slow glucose absorption. This combination prevents sharp blood sugar spikes. Second, avoid skipping meals early on. Until your body adapts, regular meals help maintain stable glucose levels. Third, start your day without sugar. A high sugar breakfast sets up the entire day for crashes. Instead, choose eggs, yogurt unsweetened, nuts or seeds. Fourth, use movement strategically. A short walk after meals can significantly reduce blood sugar spikes. Even 10-15 minutes makes a difference. Fifth, support hydration and electrolytes. Low energy is often worsened by dehydration, especially during the first week of sugar removal. Here's the key takeaway. When you quit sugar, you're not just avoiding crashes. You're teaching your body to produce stable, sustainable energy. Energy that doesn't depend on constant stimulation. Energy that supports focus, mood, and long-term health. And once you experience that stability, it becomes very difficult to go back to the roller coaster. In the next section, we're going to explore something deeper and more long-term. How quitting sugar reduces inflammation and why that impacts your skin, joints, aging, and even disease risk. If this is helping you so far, you already know what to do. Stay with me. Now let's move into something deeper and often invisible at first, inflammation. Because one of the most powerful benefits of quitting sugar for 30 days is that your body begins to lower chronic inflammation, the kind that silently drives aging and disease. Here's what's really going on inside your body. When you consume excess sugar regularly, it doesn't just affect insulin or energy. It also triggers a process called glycation. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine sugar molecules floating in your bloodstream like tiny sticky particles. Now imagine those particles attaching themselves to proteins in your body, like collagen in your skin or structural proteins in your joints. When sugar binds to these proteins, it forms harmful compounds known as advanced glycation end products, or AGEs. And these AGEs damage collagen and elastin, leading to wrinkles and sagging skin, stiffen joints and tissues, increase oxidative stress, and trigger inflammatory pathways throughout the body. What the research shows is that higher levels of AGEs are associated with accelerated aging, increased risk of chronic disease, poor skin quality, and reduced cellular function. Now here's the shift that happens when you remove sugar. Within weeks, your body begins to reduce the formation of these compounds. Inflammatory markers start to decline, and many people begin to notice real, visible changes. Skin looks clearer and more hydrated. Puffiness and bloating decrease. Joint stiffness improves. Even dark circles or dullness may reduce because inflammation isn't just about pain. It's about how your body functions at a cellular level. Now let's make this actionable. If you're quitting sugar and want to accelerate inflammation reduction, here's what to focus on. First, increase anti-inflammatory foods. Think fatty fish, rich in omega-3s, olive oil, a turmeric, berries in moderation, low sugar but high antioxidants. These help counter oxidative stress. Second, support your antioxidant systems. Foods rich in vitamin C, like citrus peppers, vitamin E, nuts, seeds, polyphenols, green tea. These protect your cells from damage. Third, improve sleep quality. Because poor sleep directly increases inflammatory markers in the body. Even 1 week of better sleep can reduce systemic inflammation. Fourth, manage stress levels. Chronic stress increases cortisol, which can amplify inflammation and slow recovery. Simple tools: deep breathing, walking outdoors, reducing screen time at night. Fifth, avoid hidden sugars. Even small amounts in sauces, packaged foods, and drinks can keep inflammation elevated. So reading labels becomes important. Here's the key takeaway. When you quit sugar, you're not just changing how you feel today. You're influencing how your body ages over time. You're protecting your skin, your joints, your brain, at the cellular level. And that's where real health transformation happens. If this is adding value, consider subscribing. I share daily content focused on helping you reduce inflammation and optimize your health naturally. In the next section, we're going to bring everything together through hormones and how quitting sugar impacts weight, mood, hunger, and long-term metabolic balance. Now, let's connect everything we've discussed to one central control system in your body, your hormones. Because when you quit sugar for 30 days, you're not just changing metabolism or energy, you're rebalancing the hormonal signals that control hunger, fat storage, mood, and even motivation. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Two of the most important hormones involved here are leptin, your fullness hormone, ghrelin, your hunger hormone. Under normal conditions, these work together to regulate appetite. Leptin tells your brain, we have enough energy, stop eating. Ghrelin tells your brain, it's time to eat. But when sugar intake is high and frequent, this system becomes disrupted. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Think of leptin like a volume signal sent to your brain saying, I'm full. Now imagine that signal becoming weaker and weaker over time. That's what happens with leptin resistance. Even though your body has enough stored energy, your brain doesn't receive the message clearly. So you continue to feel hungry, especially for quick energy foods like sugar. At the same time, sugar spikes and crashes increase ghrelin, which makes you feel hungry again shortly after eating. This creates a cycle. Eat sugar, spike, crash, hunger, repeat. Now here's the powerful shift. When you remove sugar for 30 days, leptin sensitivity begins to improve. Ghrelin stabilizes. Hunger signals become more accurate, which means you start eating because you're actually hungry, not because of hormonal confusion. But that's not all. There's another key hormone involved. Cortisol, your primary stress hormone. High sugar intake can dysregulate cortisol, especially when combined with poor sleep and stress. And elevated cortisol promotes fat storage, especially belly fat, increases cravings, disrupts sleep, impacts mood and anxiety levels. When sugar is removed, cortisol patterns often stabilize, especially when combined with better sleep and nutrition. And this leads to improved mood stability, reduced anxiety-like symptoms, better sleep cycles, more consistent energy. Now let's make this practical. If you want to optimize hormonal balance during your 30-day reset, focus on these. First, eat enough protein early in the day. This helps regulate hunger hormones and reduces cravings later. Second, maintain consistent meal timing. Your hormones respond well to rhythm and predictability. Third, prioritize sleep. 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep is essential for leptin and ghrelin balance. Fourth, avoid late-night sugar or snacking, because it disrupts both insulin and cortisol rhythms. Fifth, manage stress intentionally. Even 10 minutes a day of deep breathing, quiet time, light movement can significantly improve hormonal regulation. Here's the key takeaway. When you quit sugar, you're not just eating cleaner. You're restoring communication inside your body. You're allowing your hormones to function the way they were designed to. So instead of fighting hunger, instead of battling cravings, your body begins to work with you, not against you. Now we'll bring everything together. So let's bring this all together. Because by now, you can see that quitting sugar for 30 days is not just a dietary change. It's a full metabolic reset. Here's what we've uncovered. When you remove sugar, your insulin levels drop, allowing your body to finally access and burn stored fat. Your brain chemistry begins to rebalance, reducing cravings and breaking the cycle of constant reward-seeking behavior. Your liver starts to repair, lowering fat accumulation and improving how your body processes energy. Your blood sugar stabilizes, which means steady energy, better focus, and fewer crashes throughout the day. Your inflammation decreases, protecting your skin, joints, and long-term health at a cellular level. And your hormones begin to regulate, so hunger, mood, and metabolism start working in your favor, not against you. This is why so many people report that after just a few weeks, they don't feel like the same person. They feel lighter, clearer, more in control, more energized, and most importantly, they feel free from constant cravings. But here's the key insight I want you to remember. This isn't about perfection. It's about removing interference. Because sugar, in excess, interferes with nearly every major system in your body, And when you remove that interference, your body doesn't need to be forced to heal. It naturally begins to restore balance.